The desert stretched forever under twin suns, shimmering with heat that turned the horizon into liquid silver. Nothing lived here. Nothing should have survived here. Yet something moved in the distance, a stumbling, desperate motion that caught Morgan Atwood's eye as he guided his survey rover across the cracked earth. He slowed the vehicle, squinting through the dusty windshield. Two figures collapsed against an outcropping of red stone. Not human. Even from here, he could see the wrong proportion of limbs, the strange angles of their bodies. Morgan stopped the rover. Every protocol screamed at him to call it in, to wait for the team, to follow procedure. But protocol didn't account for the way one figure draped itself over the other, protective even in collapse. Didn't account for the stillness that suggested they'd already stopped breathing. He grabbed his emergency kit and ran. The first thing that hit him was the smell, not decay, but something like sun-baked metal and flowers. The second was how young they looked, despite their alien features. Pale blue skin marked with silver patterns that seemed to pulse faintly. Wide eyes that tracked him with desperate awareness. One was larger, broader in the shoulders, sprawled across the smaller one like a shield. "Easy," Morgan said, though they probably couldn't understand. "I've got water," the larger one hissed, a sound that vibrated in Morgan's chest. Something about the protective stance read as feminine pulled the smaller figure closer. "I'm not going to hurt you." Morgan opened his canteen slowly, deliberately. He poured water over his own hand, let them see it drip through his fingers. Then he held it out. The larger alien's eyes fixed on the canteen. Her throat moved in what might have been a swallow. Silver patterns along her neck flickered like dying lights. Morgan set the canteen on the ground between them and backed up 3 steps. For a long moment, nothing moved. Then the larger alien reached out with a trembling hand, 3 long fingers and an opposable thumb, he noted distantly, and grabbed the canteen. She pressed it to the smaller one's lips first, supporting her head with surprising tenderness. The smaller alien drank in desperate gulps. Water spilled down her chin, and the silver patterns on her skin brightened slightly. Her eyes fluttered open, larger than her protectors, the deep purple of an evening sky. When the smaller one had drunk her fill, the larger alien finally allowed herself to drink. She drained half the canteen in seconds, then looked at Morgan with an expression he recognized, despite the alien features. Gratitude, and a question. "There's more," Morgan said. He went back to the rover and returned with 3 more bottles, a thermal blanket, and his emergency rations. "Can you walk? My base is 2 hours from here. You need shade, more water, medical attention." The larger alien helped the smaller one sit up. They leaned against each other, both watching Morgan with wary intensity. The smaller one spoke, a sound like wind chimes and running water. The larger responded in the same language, her voice deeper, rougher. Morgan pointed to himself. Morgan, then to the rover. "Vehicle, safe." He made an exaggerated walking motion with his fingers, then pointed toward the horizon. The larger alien seemed to understand. She looked at her companion, who nodded weakly. Then she tried to stand. Her legs gave out immediately. Morgan caught her before she hit the ground, surprised by her weight, denser than a human of equivalent size. She tensed in his arms, that hiss rising in her throat again, but didn't pull away. "Okay," Morgan said. New plan. He helped them both into the rover's back compartment, which barely fit them with the equipment he'd shoved aside. The smaller alien curled immediately into her protector's side, and the larger one wrapped an arm around her, never taking her eyes off Morgan. The drive back to base camp was tense. Morgan kept checking the rear display, watching them drink slowly from the water bottles, watching the silver patterns on their skin gradually strengthen. By the time the cluster of habitat domes appeared on the horizon, both aliens were sitting up, alert and visibly stronger. Morgan's communicator had been buzzing for the last hour. He'd ignored it. Whatever explanations he owed could wait until these two weren't dying. He pulled up to his personal habitat, the smallest dome, set apart from the main research facility. The aliens watched him unlock it, their eyes tracking his every movement with predatory focus. "Home," Morgan said, gesturing inside. "Safe, for now." The larger alien climbed out first, then helped the smaller one down. They moved like dancers despite their obvious exhaustion, each supporting the other in perfect synchronization. Sisters, Morgan thought. They moved like sisters. Inside, the habitat's climate control brought the temperature down to something bearable. Morgan gestured to his bunk. "Sit. Rest." He filled a basin with water and grabbed his first aid kit, though he had no idea if anything in it would work on alien physiology. The smaller alien sank onto the bunk gratefully. The larger one remained standing, positioning herself between Morgan and her companion, protecting, always protecting. "I need to check you're okay," Morgan said, moving slowly. "Medical." He pointed to his own eyes, then to them, miming an examination. The larger alien studied him for a long moment. Then she spoke, her voice vibrating strangely in the small space. Not words he understood, but the cadence of a name. "Kyra," she said, pointing to herself. Then, gently touching the smaller alien's shoulder, "Lysa. Kyra. Lysa." Morgan pressed his hand to his chest. "Morgan." Kyra's expression shifted, something that might have been a smile on a human face. She moved aside, allowing him access to Lysa. The next hour passed in a strange, delicate dance of trust-building. Morgan examined them as best he could, noting the silver patterns that seemed to be part of their circulatory system, the way their skin cooled to the touch once properly hydrated, the double-jointed nature of their limbs. Lysa submitted to his inspection with wide-eyed curiosity. Kyra watched every movement like a hawk, but gradually relaxed as Morgan proved himself careful and gentle. He gave them protein bars, which they sniffed suspiciously before eating. Fed them water slowly, knowing too much too fast could be dangerous. Set up his camping cot so they could both lie down properly. "You need to sleep," he said, even though they probably couldn't understand. "I'll keep watch." But when he turned to leave them in peace, Kyra caught his arm. Her hand was cool, her grip surprisingly strong. She looked at him with those alien eyes and said something in her musical language. Then she pointed to the space beside Lysa on the bunk. Morgan shook his head. "That's for you both. I'll take the cot." Kyra repeated the gesture more insistently. She pulled him gently toward the bunk, then positioned herself on Lysa's other side, creating a space between them. "You want me to?" Morgan trailed off, understanding hitting him. They didn't trust him out of sight, couldn't relax unless they could see him. After what they'd been through, he couldn't blame them. He settled carefully onto the bunk, acutely aware of the alien warmth on either side of him. Lysa immediately curled against his side, her head finding his shoulder as if it belonged there. Kyra draped an arm across both of them, protective even now. Morgan lay very still, barely breathing. This was insane. He'd broken about 40 different regulations already. But the soft sounds of their breathing, deepening into sleep, told him he'd made the right choice. He stayed awake, watching over them as they'd asked, and tried to figure out how to explain this to his superiors in the morning. 3 days passed in a bubble outside reality. Morgan kept them hidden in his habitat, claiming equipment failure when anyone asked about his isolation. He brought supplies, shared meals, and slowly began to communicate. Kyra was quick with languages. By the second day, she'd mastered basic words: yes, no thank you, safe, danger. Lysa watched everything with those enormous purple eyes, occasionally speaking in rapid bursts that Kyra translated through gestures and their growing shared vocabulary. They told their story in fragments: a ship, an accident, crash landing in the desert, days of walking, searching for water, the certainty they would die together, which seemed to comfort them both. "Family," Kyra said, holding Lysa close. "Sister." "I understand," Morgan replied. He'd lost his own sister years ago. Understood that bone-deep need to protect. But there was something else, too. The way they looked at him. The way Lysa would rest her head against his shoulder when they sat together. How Kyra would touch his hand with unexpected gentleness. The way they'd started sleeping on either side of him each night, as if the arrangement was natural and right. On the third night, as the twin suns set through his habitat's viewport, Kyra spoke carefully in her accented English. "You saved us, gave us life." She looked at Lysa, who nodded encouragingly. "Our people, when life is given, life is owed." "You don't owe me anything," Morgan said. "Not owe." Kyra struggled for words. "Choose. We choose." Lysa added something in their language, her voice soft but certain. Kyra translated. "We choose you. As mate. Both of us." Morgan's breath caught. I don't think you understand what you're saying." "We understand." Kyra moved closer, her cool hand covering his. "Our culture, sisters share mate. Share life. You are kind. Strong. You protected us when we had nothing. You were dying. Anyone would have." "No." Lysa's voice surprised him. Her English was rougher than Kyra's, less practiced. "Many passed before you. In sky, ships. They saw. They left us. The words hit like a physical blow. What? Kyra nodded. We saw ships, called for help. They saw us, turned away. You stopped. You ran to us. You gave your water when you did not know if we were dangerous. Morgan thought of the other survey teams, the corporate mining operations, the military installations scattered across this world. How many had picked up 2 dying aliens on their scanners and decided it wasn't their problem? That's not right. No, Kyra agreed. That is why we choose you. You did what is right when it was not easy. Lysa moved to his other side, mirroring her sister. Please, she said carefully. Let us stay. Let us choose you. Morgan looked between them, these impossible, beautiful beings who'd stumbled into his life and turned everything upside down. I need to report you. My superiors will want to make contact, establish protocols. There will be questions, investigations. We will face them, Kyra said. Together, as family. As mates, Lysa added, and pressed something into his hand. A small device, silver and warm. Translator. From our ship. We salvaged before walking. Now you understand us fully. The device activated at her touch, and suddenly their voices carried layers he hadn't heard before. Kyra's rough protectiveness was underlaid with uncertainty, hope, longing. Lysa's soft tones held steel determination and surprising strength. We are not weak things you saved, Kyra said, her full meaning flowing through the translator. We are warriors of our people, scouts and navigators. We survived because we are strong. We survived because we had each other, but we lived because you chose compassion over convenience. That is the mate we want. That is the family we choose to build. Morgan turned the translator over in his hands, buying time to think. My people, humans, we're not used to this. Multiple partners, I mean. It's complicated. All good things are complicated, Lysa said gently. That is why they are worth choosing. And if I say no, pain flickered across both their faces, quickly masked. Then we thank you for our lives, Kyra said formally. We will ask for transport to our people. We will leave with gratitude and never forget your kindness. The thought of them leaving created an unexpected hollow in Morgan's chest. 3 days. That's all it had been. 3 days of sharing space, building trust, learning to communicate. 3 days of falling asleep between them and waking to their soft breathing. 3 days of Lysa's quick laugh and Kyra's protective presence, and the feeling that something broken inside him was slowly being repaired. I'm not saying no, he said carefully. I'm saying I need time to understand what this means. What you're really asking for. Kyra and Lysa exchanged a look, one of those silent conversations that sisters can have. Then Kyra spoke. Among our people, when sisters choose a mate, they choose for life. They build a home together, raise young together, face the world together. 3 is our foundation number. 3 is strength. 3 is balance. Your culture had one mate for one person, Lysa added. You called it marriage. This is our marriage, our bonding, our promise. Are you? Morgan's voice cracked. Are you proposing to me? Both of you. Yes, they said in unison. Morgan laughed, the sound surprising him. This is insane. I found you dying 3 days ago. This is the fastest relationship in the history of relationships. Time is not what matters, Kyra said seriously. Truth is what matters. And the truth is simple. You are kind when kindness is rare. You are strong when strength is needed. You chose us when others did not. We choose you in return. What if you're wrong about me? What if I'm not what you think? Then we will learn the truth together, Lysa said. That is what mates do. Morgan stood, pacing the small habitat. Both aliens watched him, their silver patterns pulsing in sync with what he now recognized as their heartbeats. Fast, nervous, hopeful. He thought of going back to Earth eventually, alone. Thought of these two returning to their people, finding someone else forgetting him. The hollow feeling grew. If I agree, he said slowly, we do this properly. We learn about each other. We figure out how to make this work with both our peoples. We don't rush. We agree, Kyra said immediately. And you have to promise to tell me if you change your minds. If you realize you made a mistake in the desert, with the heat and fear clouding your judgment. We promise, Lysa said. If you promise the same, deal. Morgan extended his hand, and they both took it, their cool fingers interweaving with his warm ones. So, now what? Kyra pulled him back to the bunk, positioning him between them as she had that first night. Now we sleep, together, as family, as mates, and tomorrow we face your superiors. together. They're going to think I've lost my mind. Perhaps you have, Lysa said, her voice warm with amusement. Perhaps we all have. Morgan settled between them, feeling their arms come around him, protective and possessive and gentle all at once. Maybe he had lost his mind. But as he drifted toward sleep, surrounded by alien warmth and the soft pulse of silver light on blue skin, he thought maybe crazy was exactly what he needed. The tribunal took 3 weeks. Morgan faced review boards, ethics committees, and a panel of xenoanthropologists who seemed equally fascinated and horrified by the situation. Kyra and Lysa stood beside him through every meeting, their English improving daily, their presence unwavering. They explained their culture, their customs, their people's approach to bonding. They submitted to medical examinations, cultural interviews, and endless questions about their intentions. They never wavered, never doubted, never backed down. When the Kyathi Federation ship arrived to retrieve their lost scouts, the 2 captains, one human, one alien, spent hours in negotiation. Kyra and Lysa had the right to choose their own path. Morgan had the right to accept their choice. The complications would be significant, but not insurmountable. Your people will think you strange, the Kyathi captain told Morgan through the translator. Our people will think them strange, but they are of age, of sound mind, and of warrior caste. Their choice is valid, if you accept it. I accept, Morgan said, and meant it. 3 weeks of facing bureaucracy together had only strengthened his certainty. These 2 warriors, these survivors, these impossibly brave beings had chosen him. How could he do anything but choose them in return? The wedding, bonding, in Kyathi terms, was a small affair. Morgan's team attended, baffled but supportive. The Kyathi delegation sent representatives, bemused but respectful. Morgan stood between Kyra and Lysa as they wrapped silver cords around their joined hands, the 3 of them bound together literally and symbolically. We are 3, Kyra said in the traditional words, translated for the mixed audience. We are one. We are complete. We are family, Lysa added. We are mates. We are forever. We are together, Morgan said, the words feeling right in his mouth. We are home. When they sealed the bond with a kiss, first Kyra, then Lysa, then all 3 in an embrace that felt like coming home, the mixed crowd erupted in uncertain but genuine applause. 6 months later, Morgan walked into their shared quarters on the joint Human Kyathi Research Station and found his wives rearranging furniture. Again, do I want to know? We are making space, Lysa said, her English now flawless. She patted her stomach, where silver patterns glowed slightly brighter than usual. Small ones need room. Morgan's brain stuttered. Small ones? Plural? Kyra grinned, that expression now familiar and beloved. Twins. Your species and ours are compatible in interesting ways. The medical team is very excited. I'm going to be a father. ×2. ×4, Lysa corrected gently. I carry twins as well. Morgan sat down hard on the newly positioned couch. 4 children. 4. This is insane. Yes, his wives said in unison and joined him on the couch, one on each side as always, as forever. We are going to need a bigger habitat, Morgan said weakly. Already arranged, Kyra said. 3 bedrooms, large common area, space for family, space for our strange, wonderful, impossible family, Lysa agreed. Morgan looked at his wives, his mates, his partners, his family, thought about the day he'd found them dying in the desert and made a choice, thought about the 4 lives growing between them, thought about the future stretching ahead, complicated and challenging and absolutely insane. Best decision I ever made, he said, stopping in that desert. Best decision we ever made, Kyra countered, choosing the man who stopped. Best decision we all made, Lysa concluded, choosing each other. Their hands found each other, 3 sets of fingers interweaving, human warm, Kyathi cool, all of them alive, and together and home. Outside their viewport, both human and Kyathi ships passed in friendly orbit, 2 species learning to share space. Inside, 3 people built a family that shouldn't exist but did anyway. Because sometimes the bravest thing anyone can do is choose love when the universe says it's impossible. Morgan squeezed his wife's hands and thought about twin babies with silver patterns and mixed heritage. Thought about teaching them to be brave, to be kind, to stop for people dying in deserts, even when it's inconvenient. Thought about how one choice could change everything. 3 is balance, he said, using the Kyathi phrase he'd learned. 3 is strength. 3 is love. Kyra and Lysa replied together, and in that moment, surrounded by family and facing an impossible future with hope, Morgan knew they were right. The universe was strange and wide and full of surprises. But the best surprise of all was this: that family wasn't about species or custom or what should be possible. Family was about who you chose you, and who you built a home with, one impossible day at a time. If you have enjoyed the story, tell YouTube to send you more stories like this by subscribing to this channel, liking the video, and leaving a comment.